Welcome back, fact enthusiasts. Mainly Facts is geared up for another dive into intriguing collections. Let's skip the formalities and jump straight into today's discoveries.
Story 1. Am I the a-hole for canceling the entire vacation when my stepdaughter hid my daughter's passport to get her to stay home? I've been married to my wife Beth for 5 years. I have a bio daughter named Jessica, she's 18, and I also have two stepdaughters named Monica and Leah. They're 25 and 28. Both are single moms and live with us currently. There's been issues with my stepdaughters asking my daughter to babysit the kids. Jessica didn't have a problem with it at first, since this is what she does to earn money, but since her stepsisters don't pay her much, she just refused to babysit. We worked this out by having my wife take care of paying for the babysitting. I planned a family vacation for 3 days and everyone wanted to go. However, both Monica and Leah suggested that Jessica stay home and watch the kids since Beth doesn't want her grandkids to come. They said it's because the kids are used to Jessica and hiring another babysitter would cause issues, and also said that Jessica isn't too fond of our destination, but it was obvious that Jessica wanted to go. They insisted, and Beth offered to pay her double, and there was just a lot of back and forth on this till I demanded they stop bringing it up. We were supposed to go last week, but when everybody had packed their bags and it was time to go, Jessica found out that she didn't have her passport on her. We searched her bag, then went home and searched there. Beth and my stepdaughters kept insisting that we go back to the airport or else we'd miss our flight. They insisted that Jessica stay at home with the kids. They even told the new babysitter to go home because she was no longer needed. I refused to go and kept searching for the passport till Monica admitted that she helped Leah hide Jessica's passport to get her to stay home with the kids. I was livid. I tried to get her to tell me where it was, but she said Leah had it. Leah denied it, so I threatened to cancel the vacation. That's when they gave it back. I decided to actually cancel the vacation and blew up at both of them and berated them. They stayed upstairs for a while, and Beth refused to speak to me and said that I punished my stepdaughters for worrying about their kids and wanting them to stay with someone they know. I got told I overreacted and ruined the trip for everybody. Editing to mention that kicking my stepdaughters out isn't possible since my wife co-owns the house that we currently live in. What is wrong with people? Why would you do something like that? I'm sorry, it's a family vacation. Jessica's 18 years old and can make her own decisions, and you're hiding her passport to keep her from going on a trip. Having her stay home to babysit shouldn't have even been in the discussion in the first place. They should never have been pushing for that. It's like, hey, this is a family trip for all of us. We'll leave your kids with someone that we can trust. Promise. This is so ridiculous. And the fact that they are upset with the poster when he has, canceled this. Yeah, of course he canceled it. I wouldn't want to be on vacation with them after they pulled something like that. No, that's absolutely just gross. And the fact that even the mother in this is just like, look, they just wanted their kids to be with someone they trust. No, you should be furious with them. And how could you do this to your stepsister to try and prevent her from having a nice trip? Absolutely uncalled for. No, this poster is not the a-hole, and serious discussions need to have with some of the people in this family. Story 2. Bully my girlfriend at work? Good luck getting hired at my company. I'm a 26-year-old man that works as a program coordinator at my company. We're a 1,000-person team that focuses on supporting the military with defense contracts. My girlfriend is 22 years old and works as a bartender while she's finishing up her final year of university. She's sweet, shy, and makes me laugh every time we hang out. I love her so much. But one of her coworkers, Megan, is a complete butt to her when they work together. Cusses her out in front of diners, belittles her when she makes a mistake, reports every little infraction she makes to the general manager, etc. This woman is in her late 30s and still acting like a high schooler. My girlfriend has reported this behavior several times to management, but they just wave it off. Several nights, she's cried into my shoulder talking about how badly she wants to quit, and I reassure her that Megan is trash and she doesn't deserve being treated that way. One afternoon, I came into the restaurant while my girlfriend was working the bar. Sure enough, Megan was also there along with another young guy. The young guy and I are talking about our career goals when he asks what company I currently work for. A defense contracting company, I respond. Oh, hey, Megan just applied there, right? He says, turning to Megan. Didn't you apply for direct defense contracting company? Yes, Megan replies, not making eye contact with me. What position, I ask. A warehouse one, she answers. That's all I needed. That night I asked my girlfriend what Megan's last name was, and the following morning I immediately headed towards the warehouse manager's office. We maintain a good professional relationship. I informed him that a woman named Megan Blank had applied for some type of position under his department and warned him that she was prone to cause trouble. He thanked me for informing him, and I went about the rest of my day as normal. That was 2 months ago. Last I heard, Megan was still working as a bartender at my girlfriend's restaurant. I applaud her for trying to move up in the world. Maybe she's looking to get health benefits. Maybe bartending is getting to be too much as she ages, but I don't think anyone else deserves to suffer from her workplace attitude. I think she's exactly where she needs to be for the rest of her life. All right, let's not completely condemn this person based on how she is right now. I mean, yeah, granted, I think, her not getting this job is maybe not the worst thing in the world. I think it's probably well-deserved. But I would also hope instead that she learns a lesson, maybe learns to be a nicer person, more understanding in the workplace so that anyone else who works at this restaurant doesn't have to suffer the wrath of Megan. It might be nice if Megan was just a more pleasant person and learned some lessons. I know, it seems like in your late 30s, learning lessons might be a little bit hard, but hey, I learned some lessons throughout my 30s, and I think I've become, better is maybe not the right word for it, but different. Story 3. Entitled Mom Gets Mad I'm in My Underwear in My Own House. Background. I usually sleep in my underwear during summer since it gets hot in my house. I also have curtains in my windows. Cast, entitled Mom, B, who invaded my privacy, entitled Kid, entitled Little Girl, me, not me, I know how it looks. One day I woke up and made myself a bowl of cereal since I was home alone. I'm 18, so I have a small house. I walked past my window to the kitchen when I heard a knock on the door. I'm still only in my underwear, so I hurry and get some shorts on. I open the door and see entitled Mom and entitled Kid. How dare you walk around in your underwear? What the F? I'm in my own house and I had the window closed with the curtain down. My daughter got curious and peeked through your window and saw your underwear. Well, it's my house, so if I wanted, I could be naked in there. Slams door. I make my cereal while entitled Mom continues to bang on the door and shout. I ignore her and play some Minecraft. That's the point where I would be like, hey, if you allow your kid to start peeping through my window, I'm going to report it to the police because that's not okay. You can't be peeping through my windows. That's the behavior of a pervert. Are you a pervert, ma'am? Are you perverting on me? Are you perverse in nature? What did you think about my underwear? Why are you looking at my underwear? How dare you? But seriously, I'm joking, but literally, peeping into someone's house with the curtains drawn, like that's illegal, right? Is it illegal? I mean, I feel like, there's a whole thing about that. Peeping is a thing, and peeping's illegal. Is it only illegal if you're in your underwear or if you're naked? Like, can you peep? I mean, I guess I've gone to knock on doors and be like, hey, is there anyone home? And you kind of lean and look at the window to see if a light's on, but what if I accidentally saw someone in their underwear? I'd be unfazed. I don't know. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for kicking my cousin off of my sister's wedding Zoom call? My 27 male, older sister 30 female, and her fiance 31 male were planning for over a year for their wedding to be this month. Obviously, they can't have the wedding as planned, but they still would like to get married, so they decided on a Zoom wedding where all of the family and friends would just call in to watch the officiant, my sister, and her fiance. My sister didn't want to be in charge of hosting the Zoom call because she thought it would stress her out, so she asked me to, and I gladly accepted. She and her fiancé decided to invite everyone they originally wanted to, and it was a very big list. When we were going over the list, my sister mentioned to me that she wanted everyone else to be muted for the majority of the wedding as she was worried that others would talk over her and her fiancé and, quote, overshadow them on their big day that was already scaled down. However, her and her fiancé said that I should unmute everyone at one point so everyone could talk and have a nice time with each other. Fast forward to the day of the wedding. Everyone is muted during the ceremony, which goes great. And so I then unmute everyone and ask to please raise a hand if they'd like to talk so it doesn't get confusing. My cousin, around my age, starts waving his hand crazily as he's with his longtime girlfriend, Also similar age, I guess. He's a very gregarious guy, so I was not surprised. Then he says stuff like, "My sister and her husband are such an inspiration, it's given me the courage to do this." Then turns to his girlfriend and pulls out a box that's the size of an engagement ring box. I immediately saw this as him trying to steal the spotlight, something that he's done since we were kids. Example, he would secretly mess up my sister and I's drawings if the adults would praise ours, and booted him off the call. Then I quickly announced that my cousin had technical difficulties and would not be joining again. Everyone else accepted this and went about talking, and my sister and her husband did too. The rest of the wedding went smoothly, except for the fact that my cousin kept texting me angrily saying that he finally wanted to propose as a surprise with family all around, and I ruined it. My aunt and uncle texted me the same. Am I the a-hole? Don't propose at weddings. Unless the groom and the bride both give you permission and they're like, "Oh my God, you're thinking of proposing. You should do it at our wedding. That would be wonderful. All the family will be there. It'll be such a wonderful thing." Unless you explicitly get that permission from them, you don't propose at a wedding. Don't do it. Don't steal the spotlight. That's their day. It's important to them. Don't do it. And if she didn't want people talking during the ceremony because it might overshadow stuff, that would definitely overshadow stuff. So, yeah, no, you are not the a-hole. Your cousin needs to, he needs to get his own thing together. I'm sorry. I know it's convenient, how convenient a wedding is for bringing family together, but no, they went through the trouble of getting that all together for their wedding, not for your proposal. Don't do it. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for putting a tracker in my wife's car? Wife and I have been together for 25 plus years, and she's always done the bingo thing with her mom. I have no problems with that, and they've been doing it for years and years, maybe once or twice a month. Again, no problem. Her mom has always been a gambling addict, and it caused the divorce of her first husband, and she wiped out her second husband's bank account within a couple of years. So I've always been a bit leery on the whole gambling thing. I've seen it destroy families. Her mom lives with us now. 15 years ago, I worked out of town/state a lot, so she's always had control of our joint banking account. My checks were auto-deposit, so never really broke down our bills as I should have. After I kept pressuring her to tell me where all our money was going, she broke down and told me she gambled it away at the casino. Slot machines. Big fight. At that point, I got a separate checking account, so at least the bills would be paid on time. I made a bit more than she does, but I pay the most of the bills and am still able to save up money every month. This has never been sustainable, though, since any surprise bills, we have 2 teen kids, it's always me that pays for them. She is broke every month. We were going over our tax returns. It turned out she owed $6,000 in taxes, all from the casino. We went over the whole gambling/financial problems again, and she shook my hand and promised that she would stop. Fast forward a few months ago, I bought a tracker online, one that I could put on my tractor. I let friends borrow it and want to keep track of it in case it gets stolen. And the kids' car, since they're turning 16 soon, I wanted to keep track of them. I had the tracker for a few weeks and decided to try it out one day. I threw it in the console of my wife's car just to see how the app works. She took off with her mom before I could tell her, and she texted me they were heading out shopping. Well, they went straight to the casino instead. I wasn't mad, but definitely concerned. I felt guilty for spying on my wife, so I took it out and never said anything. However, curiosity killed the cat, and I threw it back in her car a few weeks later, this time on purpose and hidden. It's been a couple months, and they've been at the casino at least twice a week. Not the bingo hall, but the actual casino. I confronted her again today when she asked for money for kids' gymnastics. I asked her how her gambling issue was going, and she denied she's been back to gambling. I gave her many outs, and she wouldn't admit it. So I told her about the tracker. Now she's furious that I tracked her and said throughout the D word. So first off, I think you should have said something immediately when you tossed it in her car to test it out. And she was like, "Hey, I'm going shopping." Just be like, "Oh, this will be cool. I have the little tracker in your car to test it, so I want to see if it works." Like, I would have thrown that out there right away if it genuinely was a mistake. I will say spying on her like that, yeah, she was in the wrong. And so I don't think it's terrible. But here's my problem. Gambling addiction can be a real issue. And just talking to someone and being like, "Hey, you're going to stop gambling?" "Oh, yes, I'm going to stop gambling." "Oh, let's handshake on it?" Good. Everything's good. What you should do in this situation is encourage help, therapy, dealing with it, because it is an addiction, and to just leave someone, be like, hey, don't do it again. Like, no, she probably needs help, rehabilitation or something, because that's such a difficult thing, I think, for a person to do on their own. And I'm not trying to make excuses for her lying and doing this stuff. Like, I think it's bad. It's definitely not okay. But I don't know, like, the lack of trust, while it is valid and earned trust, lack of trust because she has been lying to you, like, she certainly has not earned trust from you. But at the same time, to then treat her with another level of distrust by, like, secretly doing this thing instead of communicating with her, talking, trying to, like, resolve it with help, I don't think necessarily helps things either. That's just my point of view. Others may disagree, and I think that's totally valid. But yeah, so good luck. Story 2. Today I effed up by getting our puppy stoned out of her mind. I can't tell anyone in my life about this because me and my fiance will look like ducking idiots. Our 6-month-old corgi was super sleepy around 5 p.m. last night, snuggled up to us, which is rare as she's usually very active, alert, and playful, especially since she slept well and didn't go on any walks. There was no reason to be this tired. We woke her up and her head was swaying when she looked at anything. She had a hard time keeping it up. She started walking and her movements looked wasted, stumbling all over, almost falling. We prevented her from falling off the couch. She had a hard time peeing without falling over. I started freaking out and getting very concerned. We've had nearby animals act similar and thought it was distemper. I tripped balls. Called the emergency vet, we rushed her over, and I was very stressed out and thought I was gonna cry. Eventually, we brought her in, explained all of her symptoms, explained about the other animals and what we thought happened. She asked us if we keep marijuana in the house. Yes, we do. Without skipping a beat, the technician tells us, I'm 90% sure this puppy is high. It makes complete sense and was something I never even considered for a second. Vets check it out, basically says very similar things. Says dogs like to eat ash from weed, which we ash on our porch sometimes. The advice was to just wait a couple of hours and it'll wear off and protect her from falling in the meantime. We were so relieved you didn't even know, but also felt so stupid. We pay $200 and leave. Puppy sleeps for hours and hours more on the couch, and now she's fine this morning. Yeah, I would absolutely be just as distressed as these people if one of my puppies was acting off like that. I would absolutely do the same thing, and we are also in a household where we have recreational use of certain substances, THC related. And but we also always make sure to keep everything, way up where they cannot get it, locked up in boxes, and any ashes and stuff like that are safely stored. Because you don't want ashes getting around where the dogs could get at them. I didn't know that dogs liked to lick up the ash from stuff like that. Also, I do edibles and stuff. I don't really have ashes, and we've got like the little juices, vapes, whatever, so it's really not an issue. But also, don't just dump the ashes on your deck. That stuff's not great for the wood. Oh, I sound like such an old dad saying this, but like, you don't want to have to be like scrubbing that gunk up. It's gonna like get in there. You're gonna have to use some harsh cleaner that's gonna strip stuff up. It's just not gonna be good for the life of your deck. So just be careful with that stuff, okay, kids? Story 1. Am I the a-hole for arguing with my boyfriend about him paying for everything? So, my boyfriend, 19 male, and I, 19 female, hit our first true argument today. It's been kind of brewing for a while now, and I think today I just pushed it over the edge. In our relationship, he tries to pay for everything, even when he doesn't have the money to. I offer to pay for stuff, typically when it's something I planned out for us, or it's our cookie dates, which is just us going and getting cookies from Crumble, but he doesn't like it when I pay or try to pay. I understand it's because of how he was raised, but I was raised where if you are the one planning it, or if it's something you want, you pay. I've told him so many times that I don't mind paying and that he doesn't have to always pay. The temporary solution was we each try to pay 50-50. I'll pay one day, he pays a different day, which was fine until today when I did not plan anything without asking first, if he would like to go to the winter park with me and my family this weekend. He said no because he has to save up some money. Fine, I knew he was saving up, so not a big deal. I knew that he was saving money, so I've been trying to pay for some more stuff if we're doing something that requires paying. But I asked him if he would still like to go, but I pay for him. I wouldn't have just been paying for him, I also would have been paying for myself. Altogether, it wasn't expensive, but he said no, that I wasn't paying. This did kind of upset me because whenever I try to pay for stuff or offer, he always responds with, "It's my job to pay," which I've never liked. After he said that I wasn't paying, I took it to heart and did kind of go off on him by saying that while it is nice that he pays, I can also pay for stuff, and I like to pay for stuff. Now he's upset and so am I, but I feel like my feelings are justified. Am I the a-hole for arguing with him about paying for everything? Wow, I didn't know that they had the Reddit and everything back in the 1980s. What is wrong with people? Why is this still an argument and a debate these days? Both people can pay in a relationship. It's not that big a deal. Guys, it is not your job to pay for everything. You're not the breadwinner, especially not when you're 19, all right? Chill out just a little bit. Both people can be equals in a relationship. It's not that hard to learn. I know some of you are raised with these weird old values where the man have to be. Calm down, all right? It's the 2020s. This has not been a thing for a long time. This isn't even the normal thing when I was growing up, when I was a teenager and started dating in the late 90s. I mean, come on. Man, have we not progressed as a society? Is this not just common knowledge now, or are that many people really hanging on to this super outdated mentality? Get over it. Story 2. My mother decided to get married the weekend before me. I, 26 female, and my fiancé, 26 male, are getting married in 2 weeks. We've been engaged with our date set for over a year. My mom was the first person we called when we got engaged, and all she said was, "I'm sure I'm the last to know. You're probably sick of hearing congratulations by now." She flew out a couple months later for our engagement party. I was outside with my friend when she stormed outside past everyone else sobbing and wouldn't speak to me except to yell at me to go back inside. Later, she told me she was just overwhelmed. Then she met her boyfriend. She told me he makes her feel so loved like my fiancé does for me, but that she was also still seeing a few other people, mostly because her new boyfriend doesn't speak any English and my mom doesn't speak Spanish. They communicate through Google Translate. A few months later, my fiancé are in my hometown for a childhood friend's wedding. My mother was also invited and brought her boyfriend. I was at the wedding, so my fiancé was stuck next to them for the ceremony. He says they made out the whole time, and whenever they weren't, my mom was complaining. During the reception, if they weren't on the dance floor grinding on each other, they were back at their table making out. He even had his hand up her dress on several occasions. I brought up this behavior on the drive home, and she said, "He's Latin, he's just very passionate." While we were in town, my MOH decided to throw us a wedding shower. I even made sure the bride whose wedding I was in was okay with it first. But it was a great chance for my fiancé to meet all of my friends, people I haven't seen since before the pandemic the last time I was there. My maid of honor tried to include my mom in the planning. Mom said she would bring table decorations and tablecloths. She brought them and then immediately sat down and got on her phone. Didn't bother to even get the things out of the car. I asked her to frost cupcakes if she was just going to sit there while I set up tables. She agreed, but complained about it the whole time. Once my friends started showing up, she completely ignored everyone and just sat in the corner on her phone. My fiancé went out of his way to try and include her in every conversation. She knew a lot of people there, girls I've been friends with since first grade, people I went to high school with, my maid of honor's parents, and she just ignored everyone. Then complained to my fiancé that I wasn't spending time with her, even though I had set the day before our trip aside to specifically spend time with her and my younger siblings. After we got back from our trip, I found out I was pregnant. Again, she was the first one I called because I knew she would be upset if she wasn't. I called her several times and she didn't answer, so I called my dad and best friend and told them. When I finally got a hold of her, she said, "Wow, congrats," in the most monotone voice I've ever heard her use in my whole life. At the end of last month, her and my dad both told me they didn't know if they could afford to come to my wedding. Again, the date has been known for over a year. I don't understand why they didn't work out travel and lodgings in advance, not to mention my mother just moved recently to be closer to her boyfriend's job. I was honestly over all of her behavior at this point, so I figured it would be a good thing if she didn't show, and I was at peace with it. But she worked it out and called me this past week to tell me she got the plane tickets for her, my brother, and her boyfriend. Oh, and by the way, they were getting married in a week before my own wedding. My fiance and I both cannot wrap our heads around how she could possibly think this is acceptable. She knows how much we've been looking forward to this, and it just feels like I'm not allowed to have anything for myself. She always needs a slice of whatever I get. Now she's gonna come to our wedding and tell everyone that she just got married too. I have to warn our photographers not to speak to her because I know she'll tell them she just got married and was wondering if they could take a few pictures of them together. She's going to try to make our wedding her wedding without having to pay for any of it. It feels like she's jealous and just wishes to be me. I don't know if it's the pregnancy hormones or if it's past trauma to do with her. We have a long history of not getting along. I thought we had been doing well in recent years until I met my fiance. But I literally never want to speak to her again after this wedding. I'll definitely be going no contact for at least a little while. I don't know if anyone will even read this novel, but I desperately needed to get it off my chest. You know, it's so weird, Poster. You said that you were, 26 or 27 or something? But how is it that you have a mom who's clearly a petulant teenager? Like, all the stuff that you are bringing up sounds like a troubled teen who needs good parenting or something, some kind of intervention. Like, this is such unbecoming behavior of, anyone, but especially an adult who should be at least somewhat responsible. I am not sure what your mother is dealing with, what issues that she desperately needs to speak to a therapist about. Maybe her childhood was cut short by something and she's making up for it now. I don't know, but this is an incredibly self-centered person, and I don't blame you for wanting no contact with her. Like, this just sounds like everything is just about her, and she's not putting any real effort into being interested and being a part of your life. So, yeah, no, I think you're making the right call, and boy, I hope that wedding went okay. Story 3. My mom is cheating with a family friend, and my dad doesn't care. For clarity, the husband will be H and the wife will be W. My parents have been friends with a couple their age since before I was born. They're all best friends with each other. They seriously do so much together, and I've known the couple ever since I can remember. W is seriously the nicest person in the world. It makes me sick to think about because I've always been fairly close to H and W. And they have a son that I'm friends with. It also makes me feel even weirder because of all the things they've done for us. Apparently, they've helped my parents out with money before when things have been tight, like buying them a new car when my dad got in an accident and wrecked his and needed one for work. They're pretty rich, whereas we're not. That's not to say we're poor, but there was a stretch where my dad got laid off for a while. My mom works for our church, so I guess she doesn't make a whole lot, and my dad works for a car manufacturer making better money than he did when I was younger. So anyways, last night, H was over at our house to hang out with my dad. Like I said, they're best friends, and he and W over here a lot. And my parents are over at their house a lot, so it's normal. Anyway, my dad went to bed kinda early because he has to get up early for work in the morning, but H stays to hang out with my mom for a bit. Again, that's normal for them. So the way our house is set up, it's 2 stories, and the ceiling of the living room goes up to the 2nd floor and is just kind of open so you can stand in the walkway of the upstairs and see into and hear what's going on in the living room. Well, I had been in my room for the most part, and I walked out to go to the bathroom when I overheard Mom and H in the living room talking in a more quiet than normal voice. I thought it was weird, so I tried to listen in on their conversation. I guess they thought I was asleep or still in my room. It's not word for word, but it's close enough. H, what time do you think you need to leave to pick up from school tomorrow? I was thinking I could come over for a little while if you feel up to it. Mom, you might as well just come over when she's dropped off at school. I've got some meetings to go to after lunch. H, just text me when you get back to the house and I'll come over. Do you want me to bring over anything special? Mom, let's just keep it simple this time. We've been doing so much freaky stuff lately that I just want to take things easy the next couple of times. At first, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and I was convinced I must have misheard things, but from their tone of voice, there was no mistaking it. I didn't listen to anything else because I felt like I was going to throw up and snuck back into my room. I felt completely numb. Here's my dad's best friend talking to my mom about coming over and having intercourse with her. I thought about just barging downstairs right then and there and going or walking up to tell my dad, but I was just too nervous and in shock to even move. After laying in my bed for what felt like an eternity, I finally decided I would get up before my dad left for work and talk to him about what I heard. Anyways, to make an even longer story short, I went downstairs around 5 a.m. when I heard my dad making breakfast and told him I needed to talk. After about 10 minutes of just rambling, I finally told him what I heard. At first, he had a look of surprise on his face, but pretty quickly he went back to looking like normal. He didn't even sound any different when he talked and just said, "Don't worry about anything, I'm sure you just misheard what they said." I was like, "No, Dad, I heard the way they were talking to each other." He just kept telling me not to worry about anything, that I must have heard incorrectly, taken things out of context, and so on. Not so much as I'll talk to Mom, or let me figure things out, or thanks for letting me know. I just don't understand. It's not like my parents have a bad relationship. They obviously love each other, and I've heard them having intercourse before. They've talked to me about intercourse before, so it's not like the topic of intercourse is awkward to talk about or anything either. Anyway, my dad left for work and left me alone in the house with my mom. I called one of my friends and asked them if they could pick me up for school because I couldn't even think about looking at my mom after all that's happened. I ended up getting my school stuff and going over to my friend's house because I didn't even want to wait for my mom to wake up. A little bit later, I got a text from my dad. Here's what it said. "I appreciate you coming to me this morning and talking. I again just want to tell you not to worry about whatever it is you heard. Like I said, I'm sure you just misunderstood what Mom and H were talking about. Please don't let this affect your day and just stay focused on school. We can talk more when I get home if you want." At this point, I just don't know what to do. I'm stuck at school. My dad either doesn't believe me or he does, but he doesn't care. And I can't even bear the thought of seeing my mom. I was thinking of either calling out my mom to her face when I got home, but the more I think about it, the more I know I probably couldn't do it. I was also thinking of texting W and letting her know. She's so nice and doesn't deserve to be cheated on either. My dad is just going to say the same thing as this morning. I don't even bother talking with him again. What should I do? I think your parents are in an open relationship or a polyamorous relationship or they're swingers or something. I mean, I genuinely believe that's what's happening. And I think the reason that your dad is saying, no, you misunderstood. Don't worry about it. Seriously, just leave it be. You've said that your mom works for your church. I'm pretty sure your church probably wouldn't be cool with that. But your parents are like, "Oh, we like our church. We have our beliefs, but also we kind of think this is just fine and need to keep this private." And so I'm willing to bet that's why he's saying this. Like, I might be wrong. I might be mistaken. Maybe dad is just in extreme denial about these things or something. I don't know. But it genuinely sounds to me like this is a dad who does not know how to broach the subject with you. Like, look, we're polyamorous. We're very good friends with this couple. Like, we're not just friends. We're friends with all the benefits. Like, I think that's totally fine. It can be very healthy for some people. Every time I say this, there are people in the comments like, "I've never heard of a polyamorous relationship that's worked out." Well, I've known a couple, so now you've heard of some, okay? Get over it. Seriously. Story 1. Am I wrong for being uncomfortable with my husband's friendship with his coworker? Throwaway because he knows my username. Edited with name so it's easier to read. No update as of yet because I think about decisions before implementing them. Also, we started couples therapy in September, so it hasn't been that long. Full story. Coworker, 24 female, we will call her Debbie, started working with my husband, 35 male, we will call him Charlie, 2 years ago. Last September, I met her for the first time at a wedding of 2 of their coworkers. She sat behind us. The girl getting married does not like my husband, but he's on the same shift, and the whole shift was invited to the wedding. The girl getting married had called Charlie a snake to Debbie in casual conversation. They are not friends, and Charlie is generally a good person in my opinion, so that is not a red flag to me. Debbie told Charlie about this. So at this point, it's a running inside joke that I was privy to. Back to the wedding. Charlie texts Debbie snake, and Debbie mouths, "Stop, all flirty." I did think it was flirty, but thought that may just be her personality. Fast forward to the shift Christmas party last year. We have been hosting shift Christmas parties at our house for 2 years. The whole shift was there, but Debbie brings her twin sister as her +1. One thing about their job is it's a male-dominated field, but I am friends with a few of his coworkers' wives. So during the party, all the women were hanging out except Debbie and her twin sister. She was hanging with the guys. I just assumed it was because she didn't really know most of the women. No big deal. But the next day, she sends Charlie a couple of photos that she had snapped of him without his knowledge. The photos were accompanied by the text, "Why did I take these? LOL." He showed me this, and his response, which was pretty PG, but I did remark something along the lines of, "LOL, I think she has a crush on you." He brushed that off. Fast forward to February. His coworkers are all in their 20s, and they convinced Charlie to get Snapchat. I've never been a fan of Snapchat, and Charlie has never had any form of social media except Reddit. After he gets Snapchat, I notice he's on his phone a lot more. I am naturally a nosy person, and I realize that is a flaw of mine. So I notice that he's beginning to talk about Debbie more, and I start questioning who he is chatting with. One thing I noticed is that every single time he works overtime, she snaps him and asks him if he is working, or she will ask if he worked it the next day. I tell him she's starting to make me uncomfortable. He brushes that off. March, we go to a new coworker's house on a Wednesday night for a dinner party. None of the wives that I'm friends with are there. I also have to work on Thursday, and no one else does. Before we go to the party, we discuss leaving at a reasonable time. At 9:45 p.m., I ask him what time we were leaving. He haws around, and I admittedly get frustrated and walk off. He gets mad and decides he is staying as late as he wants. I keep asking when we're leaving and remind him that I have to work. I spend the rest of the night crying on the couch in a stranger's house. 4 people come to check on me. Charlie and Debbie never do, and I can see them sitting beside each other outside. Edit, we end up leaving the party at around 1:30 a.m. May, we go to a hot air balloon festival an hour from our home. He sees her on Snapchat's story that Debbie is about 30 minutes away. He tells her where we are and asks her to meet up. I'm not really privy to his conversation, except that I asked him who he was talking to, and it was her. We get in an argument and leave before she arrives, and then he tells me that's what they were talking about. June, we go to London for vacation and are arriving back in the States on our anniversary. I posted a super cute slideshow. Debbie sees it. Debbie then snaps at Charlie about someone breaking into her car. I express that I think it is weird. August, Charlie says that he stopped talking to Debbie because it made me upset. He's been distancing from me for a few months though, so I still have a gut feeling that something isn't right. He got a new phone in July but saved his old phone. I let my intrusive thoughts win and I look at his old phone. Charlie and Debbie talked on the phone for 45 minutes while I was at work, and they were both off work. I logged into Charlie's TikTok account. He sent her a video from Barstool Sports of a girl telling a guy, "I have a crush on you," and the guy reacting really well to it. 2 days before he sent that video, Debbie reposts one that says, "When you are trying to go to sleep but all you can think about wanting him in your bed." 2 days after he sent her the crush video, she reposts a video that says, "The most confusing place you can be is knowing you have a connection with someone, but you're not officially together, but you're more than friends." I confront him and tell him that this is an inappropriate relationship. After I confront him, she deletes her videos. He claims he didn't talk to her about it and still maintains that they stopped talking. Last week, I decided to check his Snapchat on his old phone because I'm still having a gut feeling. They have been #1 BFFs on Snapchat for at least 2 weeks. They talk every single day. She sends him a pic of herself in her pajamas, "Now I'm in my PJs, LOL," while I'm looking. It wasn't risque, but I've never once sent any of my male friends a selfie of myself, much less in my pajamas. I tell him I'm not comfortable with their relationship and I would like him to stop being friends with her. Side note, we are in couples therapy as well. During a fight, he tells me that he likes having friends. I have no problem with any of his other friends. I asked him why he lied and said he stopped talking to her. He said because he knew I didn't like it. I feel like I can no longer trust him, and he basically told me that he would rather be friends with her than married to me. I've asked all my friends if I'm overreacting, and all of them have told me to leave him. We've been married for 13 years and together for a total of 15 years. So, am I overreacting? You might be underreacting. Oh boy. So I don't want to say for sure that there's something going on, but those little messages, like the crush video and the whole oh, that feeling when you're more than friends with someone, but blah, blah, blah. No, clearly there is either something going on or they very much want there to be something going on. Now, even if I'm wrong about that, and I may be, maybe this is just unreliable narrator or something. Who knows? The fact that you have told him that you are uncomfortable with some of the stuff that they do together in their relationship, with their interactions, you've expressed hey, I'm not comfortable with this level of familiarity between you two, and he's just been brushing it off, is a pretty big red flag, and it's also just not a great thing. He should be able to have a conversation with you about that if he's really look, she's just like that, I promise nothing, she's like this with other people, and maybe he did say some of that, but still, it's just, none of this sounds right, and it absolutely sounds like something is very, very wrong, and I don't even necessarily want to know the update to this story because I feel like it's not going to be great. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for blowing up at my husband for sharing my daughter's birthday pictures? Ever since my brother passed away at the age of 17 on his birthday, my family decided to never celebrate birthdays ever again. It was Mom and Dad's decision, but because of how much the family loved my brother, the extended family decided to do the same and stand in agreement with this decision. My husband would refuse to follow this decision and kept celebrating his birthday. Me and the family didn't say a thing about it since he's not a blood family, but when I first got pregnant, the argument about celebrating our daughter's birthday occurred. My family advised me to just not celebrate her birthday since she's a baby and won't even remember anyway. I agreed, but my husband threw a fit and insisted that we celebrate our daughter's first birthday. I caved in eventually, but told him we'd have a small, secret celebration so that my family wouldn't find out. He agreed. The next day, I got a call from my mom, and she was so upset, saying that my word meant nothing and that I have no respect for my brother's memory nor the family. I asked what she meant, and she told me she saw the birthday party pics my husband posted on social media. I was too shocked to even argue. I hung up and went straight to my husband to confront him about it. He got defensive and said that he didn't need my permission to post pics, and that he wanted to show his family the birthday celebration pics since I insisted we have a small secret party and exclude them. I explained to him how this made me look bad and a liar to my family, but he said they can get over it, and called my mom Snooby. I blew up at him, and we had a huge fight about it. He started sulking later and said I ruined the memory of our daughter's first birthday for him and verbally abused him with how I lashed out. But I solely did it out of frustration, knowing that what happened caused a massive problem between me and my family. Now he is expecting an apology from me. Am I the a-hole? I'm not even that big on birthdays personally, but I do find it odd that like the whole blood family and everything is like no birthdays ever, and then it's like the daughter's born, it's like no birthdays, and like is this just gonna keep spreading? Like I feel like eventually you might have to move on from that, but that's not my place to say. Whatever they're all happy and comfortable with, but that I don't know, I don't understand that reaction. Like I mean, losing a family member like that, heartbreaking. I feel terrible for them, but whatever works for them. But spreading it on to like the daughter and not allowing that seems a little harsh. Like kids love birthdays. It's a wonderful thing for them. Like if adults don't, fine, but I don't know. Birthdays are fun for kids. But then again, as a 1-year-old, yeah, she's not going to remember. I do not understand birthday parties for 1-year-olds. Those are just for adults. And I think the dad could have waited and probably shouldn't have gotten so upset about it. I don't know. I don't know where I land on this. This is weird and uncomfortable. Moving on. Story 2. Former landlady kicked my family out during the holidays. Let me start off by saying that my former landlady is an a-hole of the highest order, and I'm sure many will agree when I relate the whole story. So here we go. During 2020, my family and I were renting a mobile home that we had resided in for nearly 9 years by 2022. We got on well with the previous landlord. He was the owner of the property and a decent guy who always fixed things when they were broken, and if he wasn't able to, he would deduct the cost of any repairs from the rent. He didn't even make us sign a lease before the initial one back in 2013. We just verbally agreed to keep the rent the same with the same arrangements for repairs and whatnot. Fast forward to 2020, and I find out that the guy had passed away from COVID-related complications, and since he was childless, his ex-wife had inherited the property. Right off the mark, the lady was a pain, decrying the whole situation, stating that she really didn't want to manage a property, but seeing as we had rented from her ex for so many years, she would give it a shot for a time and see how it worked out. Husband and I listed all the issues that still needed addressing with the house. They weren't necessarily pressing issues, but they would become bigger problems in the future if they weren't taken care of soon. Cooling unit needed replacing, the wiring was becoming faulty, etc. It's an old house. She assured us that she would be in touch soon to assess the issues and get started on the work that was needed. Little did we know that the landlady was making an active effort to sell the property without telling us. Every conversation with her became stilted and short, and she kept talking about how she needed to conduct an inspection of the property. Normally, a pending inspection by a landlord would not have bothered me, but she would make attempts to enter the home without giving us proper notice. In my state, it's a minimum of 48 hours notice to enter a tenant's home, and it has to be made in writing. Then one day, our water was shut off by the water company for no reason that we could determine. I contacted the water company and was told that due to a water leak on the main water line to the house, We lived about 2/3 of a mile back from where our water meter was, and the wastage we had from it, they had to shut the water off to prevent further wastage. I then contacted the landlady to let her know because a repair like this was well beyond mine or my husband's capabilities. We'd repaired smaller water leaks at the house itself, but this was a larger job that we didn't have the ability to repair ourselves. The landlady assured me that she would get someone out there to fix the problem, and the water company agreed to turn the water back on based on that assurance. Weeks went by, with a lot of back and forth from the landlady, always with some excuse as to why the water leak hadn't been fixed. Husband and I started looking for a new place to live that we could afford. We were in a tight situation financially, but were having no luck. Eventually, the situation came to a head when I was woken by one of my kids. In her hand was a notice of eviction from the landlady. She had apparently just taped it onto the front door and made no attempt to knock and speak with either myself or my husband. I immediately contacted her asking her why she was evicting us, and she tried to gaslight me. She kept saying that she made numerous attempts to come inspect the property only to be blocked by me or my husband, and so she had sold the property. She gave us 3 weeks to move out. This was the week before Christmas. Once I told my husband, he began to search for another home. To my surprise, he found one. We got approval on our application, and we were moved in well before the landlady's deadline. Enter petty revenge. I changed all the exterior locks to the house before we left, and did not provide her with updated keys, in addition to taking with us parts of the circuit box that we had recently replaced that she had not reimbursed us for. I also left a note for the new owners warning them about the water leak that hadn't been fixed. To my knowledge, no one lives there at the moment, and it's been almost a year since the property was sold, and there's not a damn thing that anyone could do since we weren't on a paper lease because she was too determined to offload the property and didn't want to fuss with signing a lease. You had the wonderful gift of an actual nice landlord, and the world took it away from you and gave you a standard issue landlord, the real crapheads of the world. I'm sorry, I know there are good landlords out there. Some of you exist, and you just happen to have some extra property. You help folks out, you're nice, you're reasonable. Most of you are like this woman, and most of you deserve what you get when you don't take care of the property and hold up your end of the whole landlord-tenant agreement. So, yeah, as far as I would say, this lady got exactly what she deserved, which is a probably half-rundown house that's not being taken care of that she can't offload onto anybody because she didn't just honestly talk with them about the issues she was having and figure something better out, and instead just chose to be a typical landlord. Story 3. I caught my younger brother spying on me while I'm changing. I'm 20 female, currently still living at home with my parents, and younger brother, 18 male. I've been dealing with multiple incidents of him perving on me and getting away with it by gaslighting me and or my parents about it. First incident I can specifically remember was a while ago at my grandparents' house. He kept trying to challenge me to climb up an old tree house, which I finally did, only to realize he could see up my skirt as I was climbing up. I yell at him to stop looking, and he acts like I was being gross for thinking he was. Whole situation was super weird, so just brushed it off and never said anything about it again. A few months later, I caught him going through my photos on my laptop. Huge fight ensued, of course, and my parents got involved. He tells me he was trying to delete an ugly picture I took of him, and somehow my parents see it as we're both in the wrong. I don't have anything scandalous on there, but it just felt so off for him to be going through my pictures. Fast forward to us moving into our new house this summer, and now we share a bathroom. He never knocks when he knows I'm using the bathroom. Instead, he just tries to see if the door is locked. Eventually, the inevitable happens. I forget to lock the door, and he barges in. Luckily, I was half decent. I tell my parents about this, and instead of the solution being he should knock, the solution is I should use the guest bathroom downstairs. The most recent incident was a couple nights ago after a family barbecue. Came back to my room and noticed the sweatpants I had changed out of before everyone arrived were out of the laundry hamper and on the floor. When I got up to do the laundry the next morning, I realized the panties I was wearing with those sweatpants were gone. The thought of confronting him over it and him gaslighting me again was honestly so exhausting I just didn't say anything. Now another pair are missing, and I'm still acting like I have no idea. No, gross, no, I'm so mad, I just, because, okay, like, if he was, like, 13 or 12 or 14 or something, I might have some amount of understanding, like, okay, look, what this kid's doing is not okay, not cool. Clearly, all the hormones that his body is just mainlining to his brain are overloading things, and the parents need to sit down and have a real serious talk about boundaries and what's okay with them. But he's 18. He's 18 years old. And even though that's still a teenager, it's still growing. It's also old enough to where you gotta know better. And this is just so skeevy, and I hate it. And I hope this person gets out of that house and away from, no. And parents, do something about it. Don't just be like, well, just use a different bathroom. I don't know. Like, no, I'm sorry. Be responsible a little bit. Like, I don't know if your parenting led to this kid being like this, but your parenting now is not helping the situation.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.